directly it has to generate something for us to sustain it. And that is the water that is going to be taken from these refrigerators will be sold to the people living here. And that monies that have been collected are the monies that we going to invest back on the refrigerator and the batteries for sustainability.
The inaugurated project received numerous praises from the villagers, especially the National Assembly member for Jara East, Honorable Bafai Sedikan, who disclosed the struggle his people faced during Ramadan in accessing cold water, asserting that the facility will be jealously guarded.
The intervention is very important because if you can see the environment here, the climate condition or the weather condition here is very hot. And it's only through this cooling system that we can have access to cool water to cooling our temperatures, because the sun is normally very hot here and there's no electricity within this constituency.
Due to the unavailability of electricity, the business has become more lucrative for women as they can earn significant income on a daily basis for the sustainability of the project, an impact that highly delights the donor.
Sustainable development is what we are doing. Any project we are doing, we want you to raise income and thereafter also generate some income for its sustainability. So they are generating income, yes, but they are also putting aside some income so that if there is any damage or whatsoever, or if they want to increase their capacity elsewhere, within the village or elsewhere, they can do it from this project. That's what we do. Another reason is because Welling-Karaba is far from any source of electricity.
The project geared towards supporting women of this hard-to-reach community raise some funds that could cater for their needs, is also committed to chasing poverty in the district. Louis Mendy, Grts.
Well, the HIV and AIDS policy and the National Strategic Plan jointly developed by the National AIDS Secretariat and the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare have been validated. The documents are expected to guide efforts at ensuring zero new HIV infections, zero HIV-related deaths, zero discrimination of people living with HIV in the Gambia by 2020. We have more in this report. HIV and AIDS is still one of the major public health and development challenges facing third world countries, and the Gambia is no exception. A healthy partnership between the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and the National AIDS Secretariat working towards containing the disease in the country was recently visible when the two institutions validated the new National HIV and AIDS Policy 2014 ahead of the new global funding mechanism. The document identifies prevention as the best way to contain the dreadful disease that is blamed for the arrest of millions of lives across the globe, predominantly in Africa.
In this validation, we would be reflecting on the following theme: HIV/AIDS control and sustainable development, contribution of the local private sector to the production of antiretrovirals, ARVs, which constituted the 2013 WAHO Day celebrations in the Gambia.
The goal of the universal coverage is to improve a sustainable access to health services whilst protecting households from impoverishing health expenditure.
I expect that the huge expertise assembled here today will come out with the concrete recommendations on how we can make substantial progress towards the finalization of the draft National HIV/AIDS Policy 2014. This meeting should examine, among other things, ways to accelerate the implementation of the great ideas contained in the draft National HIV/AIDS Policy document and the means of strengthening the HIV/AIDS national response.
For the past 5 years or more, we were responding to the HIV and AIDS in the direction that we have decided in the last policy. That is to say, the policy that we have just reviewed and within which we responded to the HIV epidemic for the past years was the guiding document that provided the pathway that we must all proceed in the response to HIV and AIDS.
As he puts it, this validated document will determine directions that they should take as players in the national response to HIV and AIDS.
This document, together together with the National Strategic Plan for HIV, are going to form the reference point, are going to be the reference point for the next application that we are going to start with the Global Fund. So if we fail to do justice to the document today, perhaps it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for us to effect any changes, any meaningful change on this draft policy.
A PowerPoint presentation highlights that heterosexual transmission continues to be the main mode of spread of HIV in the country.
DHS preliminary data shows more HIV in the rural area than in the urban areas. That's a worry. And if you look at the local government areas, Banjul, just 1.1, KMC, West Coast, 2.5, LRR is frightening, it's approaching 3. NBR, CRR North, if we had looked at the trend in CRR North, is pathetic too. CRR North is growing.
With that alarming rate of HIV cases in provincial Gambia, Mr. Cham went on to say something is responsible. Is it ignorance? For health experts say its greatest friend is ignorance and its worst enemy is education. That is probably the principal reason why this document calls for concerted efforts for the campaign against HIV and AIDS. Reporting for Grts News, I am Fatujane Mbai. Well, time now to take our first break. We're back with news from outside the Gambia. Don't go away. The search area has been expanded again today for the Malaysia Airlines plane that so far seems to have simply vanished without a trace. Search teams are covering 70,000 square meters for flight MH370 that disappeared more than 4 days ago. Officials called the search operation unprecedented, but one country is scaling back its search efforts. Now Vietnam appears to be frustrated by the information it is getting from Malaysia and said it will now wait for clearer information. The plane took off early Saturday morning from Kuala Lumpur and was heading towards Beijing, but some officials say radar recording suggests that the plane may have turned around and gone off course, possibly flying back to Malaysia. But at the briefing today, officials say photo analysis of the radar data may be needed to confirm that. There are 39 planes, 42 ships and search crews from 12 countries scouring the seas and some land areas for any sign of the jet, but so far there is no sighting. Now sophisticated international search and rescue teams have not yet been able to locate the missing plane, but CNN's Jane Simon explains how satellite images are being used to find the missing pieces of this puzzle.
7 is no small airplane, but in this case it feels like a needle, and the ocean is the haystack. That's why a Colorado company called Digital Globe has enlisted the public to help find the missing plane.
And we'll ask you to mark anything that looks interesting, any signs of wreckage or life raft.
The company has pointed a couple of its orbiting satellites at the Gulf of Thailand and put the images online at tomnod.com for people to scour for anything suspicious. See something interesting, you tag it with an easy click. A CNN eye reporter found this image that he thought resembled the shape of a plane. No word on what, if anything, it is, but by crowdsourcing the images, you put more eyes on possible clues. It's not the first time satellite imagery has been used in this way. It helped track tornado damage last year in Moore, Oklahoma, and more recently the floods in Colorado. But the most well-known example of crowdsourcing following a tragedy occurred after the Boston Marathon bombings. Investigators asked attendees to submit any image or video that might assist them in locating the perpetrators. As for the plane, the sheer number of digital volunteers has overwhelmed the website, a sign of a public eager and willing to help.
In many cases, the areas covered are so large, or the things that we're looking for are so hard to find, that without the help of hundreds or thousands of people online, we'd never be able to find them.
Dan Simon, CNN, San Francisco.
In Crimea, security is getting tighter and movements more limited as the troubled Ukrainian peninsula